Good morning. Today is Sunday, February 25th. I'm not sure when you're watching this. February 25th, 2018. Let me say that. I hate watching videos like this where you watch it clearly after it was recorded and you're like, what year is it? What is this 2000 and what year? So this is February 25th, 2018. And my name is Darius. You guys know that. Darius Williams, but I go by Darius Cooks pretty much everywhere online. So by the time you would have watched this video, regardless of when I posted it, the procedure would have been done. I would have gone through the process of having bariatric surgery, and it'll be over. I choose to document it this way versus documenting it as I'm going through it, just in case, I get second thoughts and I'm like, I don't know. Let me start by saying this. Obesity is a disease that is really running rampant in our American culture, especially in our African American culture. And when there's a disease that happens or someone's diagnosed, I mean, you really got to look at it seriously and say, what are your options? Obviously, diseases can be controlled. Diseases can be cured. Some can. And you can get to a point where if you don't do anything about a disease, if you do absolutely nothing, the damage can be done to you, your body, that thing can overtake you. So I made a decision, like most people do, for the new year, to say, I'm going to look at my New Year's resolutions and I'm going to figure out what I want to do for the new year. And we started off doing vegan. And that's how this whole thought process started. We started off doing vegan. I lost 20 pounds doing vegan. And it was an amazing time. I felt great. My body felt great. And I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And so I started off thinking, like, with this year, I wanted everything to be about health and wealth. Like, I wanted to be the healthiest I could become, right? So I'm doing some other things cosmetically that I've been putting off for a while. And from a wealth standpoint, I wanted to do really good with just building my businesses and, how healthy those businesses are. And just, things I could do in 2018 that would literally set me up for a path of success as I move into, the rest of my life, pretty much. So that's where all this came from. So a couple of weeks ago, we were on a cruise, and we were in Mexico, Gulf of Mexico. And I was sitting around in the stateroom alone and just thinking about my life, and I was just saying, what else can I do? Like, I'm always a pusher of the envelope, right? The reason, the recipes that you guys may become familiar with are so popular is because, I don't just stop at like, all right, let's do a fried chicken. I'm like, all right, let's push it and see how far we can go. So I push the envelope, and I do that in every area of my life, right? I think that's one of the keys to success is just saying, how far can I push this envelope? And having a dedication to how far that can actually go. Well, it was in my stateroom, and I was like, you know what? I think if I'm going to really conquer this and really live my best life, I'm going to have to use a tool to cure this demon, man. I got to cure this situation with food. I got to figure this out. So I started doing some research. I will say before I started doing my research, I was really, really, really against having bariatric surgery of any kind. Like, I was against it because I don't think I really understood it. And so after thinking about it, I made a phone. Well, I sent an email to a bariatric center here in the Atlanta area. And she got right back to me, and I watched a couple of videos, and I was like, let's just go with it, right? I'm a Capricorn, and sometimes, I do impulse things, and I'll deal with it later. So let's just go with it. So, we hadn't committed to the actual surgery. It was just the process of going through it. Um, so here's how it goes, because a lot of people just don't know, especially if you like. So I have insurance, but I got the the Obamacare, where if you really get sick, and you really have to go to the emergency room, they'll cover you. Other than that, you kind of on your own, So this wouldn't be covered by, sort of any insurance. So I'll tell you what I know from this side of the coin. So I put a phone. No, I sent an email. Actually, no. Yeah, no, I sent an email, and then they called me. So my phone was kind of working on the ship, in sea. But I told her real fast. I'm like, yo, listen, I'm on the water. My phone is gonna die. What's your email address? So she gave it to me real fast over the phone. I wrote it down, and we had good internet, so I was able to just send her email, explain to her, hey, I'm on a ship, I'm on a boat, da 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 da. Right, and it was a black girl. And you know how we could be. First question she asked me is, who's your insurance carrier? So I told her who my insurance carrier was, and she replied, and she was like, we don't work with that insurance company. Basically, she kind of gave me the cold shoulder when I said that. So I replied back to her, and I said, hey, I'm gonna pay for this out of my pocket. I'm gonna pay for it with cash. And when I said that, the carpet was laid out. Okay, let me tell you, surgeons love to hear, doctors' offices love to hear the word self-pay. They don't have to deal with the insurance company. They get the money straight up. They will roll out the red carpet and give you the golden platinum treatment. Okay, so so from that point on, it was whatever I needed. They're there to help me, which is so crazy, but that's how it works, right? So so here's how it goes. So they set up an appointment for you to come in. And this is an appointment where you talk to the surgeon and dietitian. And I'm going to tell you, the process is like literally 1, 2, 3. So my appointment was on this past Wednesday. Today is Sunday. And so I go to the appointment. I'm supposed to be there at 11 o'clock. I'm there at 10:55. I finally get called to the back around 11:30. Doctor's offices, whatever. At this center, there are two, on the website there's two, but in the office there's 3 different surgeons, and the one I got was the most popular. They all do the same thing. It's a center of excellence. All of these guys are fellows of the American College of Surgeons. They started this practice a while ago. They're recognized by, the association of this, that, and the third as being one of the top X, Y, and Z. So it's a really great place to go, right? They do thousands of these procedures a year. So from a center standpoint, a doctor standpoint, I'm pretty cool. So I go and they do my vital signs, blood pressure, all that. Blood pressure is slightly elevated, but I think I was fluish that day. Like Wendy Williams has a fluish. Wasn't the flu, but I took some Benadryl, and just a lot was going on that day. So anyway, blood pressure was slightly elevated. They take your weight. 393 pounds was the number on the scale. Oof. Okay, 6'4", 393. It's a lot of weight to be carrying around. So I go see the surgeon first. He comes in the room, doctor's office. We have conversation. I basically researched everything I needed to know about this surgery. YouTube will help you out a lot. So I've YouTubed lots of stuff. I know doctors hate that. Plus, my best friend is an anesthesiologist. So obviously, we've gone over this in detail. And he does anesthesia for bariatric patients at surgery centers. So this is what he does for a living. So this is, very, very, very low risk. And, we've talked it and the whole bit. So the doctor comes in, we have a conversation. I don't really have any questions. I'm asking, how soon will I be up and walking? He's like, within 4 hours. You do have an option though. So they do either put you in the hospital to do this. So you go to the operating room, or a surgery center. A surgery center is more, more for like an outpatient situation. So if you don't have any other complications, you have no other, health issues, no other, pending issues, the surgery center is what you go to have this done. And it's like, you're up and out like the same day. So you can have the surgery at 8 and be back at home, at 5. Like it's that quick, right? And they do it what they call laparoscopically now, which is they make 5 incisions in your abdomen, and they basically fill your abdomen up with carbon dioxide, and then like it blows up, and then they're able to put in instruments with cameras to see. So they do all this with like 5 incisions, which it's great for like, post-op healing and, less risk of infection and all that good stuff. And then they pull out part of your stomach through one of the holes, which is tripped out. Watching on YouTube is crazy. Anyway, all right, so I'm with the surgeon. I mean, our conversation was maybe 6 minutes long. I mean, it was that quick. It was that simple. I didn't really have any major questions because I had, again, done all the research about the anesthesia. I think I asked him like maybe one other question that I didn't have an answer to, but he answered it. Oh, about like the skin and stuff, like what happens with the skin. And I'll tell you what he told me. He said it depends on 2 things, neither of which you can control. The first is your age. The second is your DNA. Some people's skin is never an issue. It might be minimal, but they're able to deal with it. Some folks, depending upon your size, it may be excess, and they've got places you can go and get that surgery done for skin removal. And he says sometimes, if you do it right with proper exercise, your skin, it'll bounce back to normal and you'll be fine. So that's one of those things that you can't really predict, and you got to kind of wait and see what happens. So fine. All right, cool. So, that was that. He leaves. My next appointment or visit on that same day was with the dietitian in the same office. So that was a fun conversation because it's about food, obviously, and you learn she tries to warn you at least about things you can do, what you can't do, what they want you to do, what's important, how much you can eat, how much you can't eat, what you should be eating. So here's a new interesting thing. I've got friends who've gone through bariatric surgery in the past, and they had to do like a 2-week liquid diet. Because obviously the more morbidly obese you are, or the more obese you are, your liver is expanded. Your liver is connected or, right position right by your stomach. And so a fatty liver is enlarged, which means that when they go in to do the procedure, there's risk of damaging your liver. If you do high protein, if you do a liquid diet, that will eliminate or decrease the risk of anything happening to your liver because your liver goes back to a normal size. However, these days, they don't even do that anymore. They just do like a high protein, low fat diet, which means that, it's kind of the same thing. So it's an interesting development that they've had over the years. So anyway, all right, so I meet with the dietitian. Everything's fine. I go meet with the finance people because, you got to pay for all this. So I'll tell you the numbers. Do I tell you now or another video? I'll tell you now. So I go chat with the numbers person, in the finance room, the finance department, and it's relatively low cost, inexpensive. I mean, it depends on, obviously, what you consider to be inexpensive, but the doctor's visit that day was $225 maybe. It was a portion for the dietitian, there was a portion for the doctor, and so that was minimal, so 200 and something bucks for that. Then they go over the actual surgery amounts with you to make sure you're okay with them. They give you a bunch of numbers, but basically if you stay at the surgery center, it's like a couple $1,000s less, and versus the hospital. And then if you pay with cash, like self-pay, cash, credit card, whatever, then the surgeon cuts you a deal. So the surgeon gives you like a couple $1,000s off because they don't have to deal with the insurance company and the whole bit. So anyway, the gastric bypass, which is where they like disconnect tubes and disconnect intestines and reconnect intestines, and there's higher risk for infection and this, that, and the third. The bypass itself is more expensive, which was about $18,000 to $20,000, so a little bit more expensive. The vertical sleeve gastrectomy, which is the one I'm going to get, that's where essentially what they do is they cut. Okay, This is gonna sound weird. What they do, what they do is they put you to sleep, anesthesia, intubate you, put a tube down your throat, keep you alive. They also put another tube down your throat that goes down your esophagus, and then that tube is their guide, right? So what they basically do is they use that tube as a guide, and they cut away every other part of your stomach that's like not around that tube. So if you can imagine, your stomach being, a circle, like, an orange, for example, they'll cut away, 80% of that orange and, discard 80% of that orange, and that leaves you with, 20% of your stomach that's left. The way they do it, the instrument they put inside you has actually a row of staples. So what it does is the instrument will cut your stomach and then also staple at the same time. So they go in, they cut, they staple, they reload the cartridge, they cut, they staple. So they do this from the beginning of your stomach to the end of the stomach to get rid of, everything. And then they pull out, which is gross. The stomach looks horrible. They pull out your stomach through one of the incisions and send it to pathology for a review, and then discard it if there's nothing wrong with it. So that procedure is somewhere around 14 to 16 grand, right? That's just for the actual procedure. So I think I'm going to end up paying, let's call it like $15,000, right, out of my pocket for the procedure. So, not horrible, but as a tool needed to, move forward in life, I mean, pretty affordable. I mean, I put down, 10 grand on a car when I go buy, a used car or whatever. So my car notes are pretty low. So, you work hard for your money, you spend it how you want to spend it. There are more costs associated that they don't tell you, okay, that I found out later. So, I went to see the doctor, saw the dietitian, fine. You have to do some prerequisite work. Right? Not a lot, but, they mandate you do a few things. The first is you've got to do some lab work, all right? So there's 4 pieces or 3 pieces. You've got to do an EKG to see how good your heart is. They want to monitor your heart, make sure your heart beats okay, no irregular rhythms. You have to do full blood work. So you have to go do your labs. They want to check, the vitamin levels, this, that, and the third. So they do a lot of tests on your blood. So you have to go give blood. I think I gave 8 or 9 tubes of blood. I can't remember the number, but 8 or 9 tubes. By someone who knew who I was too, FYI. So she closed the door and was like, "Can I get a picture?" I'm like, "Girl, this is so against regulatory, laws, but okay, fine, let's do it." She's like, "I love everything you do." And she was like, "Every time you cook chicken, they always complain that you don't wash your chicken." So she's really a watcher. She's really a follower. So that's cool. She's like, "And I get to stick you." I was like, "Yeah, do it once. Find the vein." So, so I got my blood drawn by her. And then the other thing you have to do from a medical perspective in the radiology department is you have to have an x-ray of your stomach, and you have to look this up. Google this. It's called a barium swallow, barium, barium swallow. So essentially, a doctor needs to look and make sure that your stomach works properly the way it does. So you taking in food, you swallow stuff, and whatever you swallow gets processed and goes through your intestines just fine. Woo! Okay, this is a doozy. All right, it's not unbearable, but it's different. Okay, so you have to fast. You can't eat anything after 12 p.m. or 12 midnight the night before. You go to the department, the radiology department, and they give you a cup about this big of this chalky liquid. Now, you haven't eaten anything. The liquid tastes like paint thinner. No, it tastes like Pepto-Bismol, but without the mint. So it's like really chalky. And barium is a mineral. So you could feel it on like the grittiness. It's like swallowing concrete. Like you could feel it like on your teeth. It's really gritty. So you swallow that, and it probably was like, 3/4 of a cup of liquid. And you lay on this machine, and if you've never had an x-ray before, it's really weird. I've never been to the hospital I've never had anything major happen where I had to go get X-rays and stuff. So this was really weird for me. But they put you on the machine, they take pictures and all this stuff on your stomach. And then that's the first part. The second part is you have to drink some more of it, but they thin it down because as you swallow it, the doctor wants to be able to see it, live in action on the X-ray to make sure that as you're laying down. So here's the deal. The first time you do it standing up, right? Or sitting down, right? And gravity pushes everything down. Okay, you really can't tell what's happening if gravity's pushing it down. So they have you lay down on your side because when you do that, your esophagus is supposed to work to push things through from your stomach into your intestine. So the second part of that test is to see if everything's functioning properly. You take 3 or 4 sips and he's watching it live. He said, okay, good, everything's fine. So that part lasts, 15 seconds. But when you're done, it's like all white, chalky stuff around your mouth. It's gross. It's horrible. So anyway, you have to pay for that. Okay. And if you're self-pay, they cut me a deal and that was $1,200. All right. So, I've already paid out of my pocket the $220 something. Now I just paid $1,200 something, so I'm up to like $1,500. And then the other thing you have to do is you have to get a psychological evaluation. So you have to get the EKG, you have to get the barium swallow, you have to get the blood work, and now you have to get a psychological evaluation. Depending upon where you go, there are different costs. One place charged $1,500 for one. The other place charged $450. Okay, so I'm taking the $450 this morning. Actually, I've got to go in a couple of hours to go do the psychological evaluation. My understanding is that FYI, the psychological evaluation place love you if you're self-pay too, because they don't have to deal with the insurance company. So when I called, he's like, "Are you self-pay or going through insurance?" I said, "No, I'm self-pay." So when I said self-pay, he was like, "Oh, well, let me see what we can do. Let me see how quick we can schedule you." Because the first time I called, he was like, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. I'm like, oh, God. Like I got stuff to do. All right, let's get this over with. So when I told him I was paying with cash, he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, all right, let's do it." Now I will warn you, I haven't gone for the mental health evaluation just yet. I go in a couple of hours. My understanding is that it's like a 2-part. This is just from like regular conversation. It's like a 2-part. You got to go one day and then come back another day. I'm like, So I'm on the phone using my West Side of Chicago charm, and I'm like, it's so far from where I live. I got to drive, and I'm also self-pay. Is there a way we can do, part 1 in the morning, and then we go for lunch, and then maybe come back in the afternoon or early evening and do the next part? And on rare occasions, they will do that. Now, if you're paying through insurance, I don't know if you have that option. But when you're paying with cash, you can dictate a little bit more. So that'll cost me about $450. So after today, I would have paid about $2,000 so far, right, out of my pocket. So I haven't paid the doctor's office for any of the surgeries yet. I will have to pay that before it's all said and done. And that'll probably be, like I said, another $14,000 or $15,000. So all in all, I think the whole thing would probably run me close to, 18, 19, 20 grand when it's all said and done. So anyway, that's all I know so far. That's all the information I have. Obviously, I am not releasing these videos or the series of videos until after the procedure is done. And probably I don't even know if I'm going to release it then, but I'm just recording it. That way, at least I have it in case I decide to do it. Again, my main goal, and this is what you have to think about, is, in being as healthy as you can be, and this is what the doctor, even said, which I could really appreciate his honest opinion. He said, yeah, you could certainly go to the gym, work out, and you could lose, 200 pounds, right? You could do that, but what's the effort that's going to take you to do, and what kind of strain will you put on yourself for doing that? When there really are other tools that are available to aid in your full-on goal, which, I mean, when you think about it that way. And then also, I think it's important to understand this other premise. While I don't have high blood pressure, while I'm not diabetic, while, I don't have sleep apnea, while, my weight really isn't a sticking point, at this point in my life, all the research shows that the longer a person is obese, and in my case, morbidly obese, the problems are coming. They're coming. So this is not, a situation of, oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. No, it's going to happen. So the time to gain control of it is now. And not later. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm nervous as hell because I've never done anything like this. I've never had, the most I've gone to is to the dentist, and, had some instruments in my mouth. That's it. I've never had to go this route. And it's a pretty scary feeling because I don't have many people close around me that I can sort of hold my hand as I go through this. So it's tough. But what don't kill you only makes you stronger, and there's no truer example of that statement than what's about to happen in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, I'll share more with you as I get the information. And today is Sunday, and it is Mental Health Evaluation Day. Let's hope the doctor I'm going to see has not seen my video on Wakanda, because he's probably going to deem me certifiable crazy. Okay. Two things I want to tell you, as I always do. Even though it's got me to this point, it's still, food is my life, y'all. Life is my food. And until next time, I do want to wish you happy cooking from my heart to yours.